I don't think back through the pits and use a second set of tyres immediately. But yeah, Latifi's throwing the cat amongst the pigeons there. That's the benefit of doing that first run. Dial yourself in. It wasn't a magic lap on the first time, but then you go out on a second set of tyres and you're just that little bit more comfortable. Perez crosses the line. 11th.
So we've got an interesting lineup at the moment. Verstappen, Bottas, Norris, Hamilton, Gasly, the top 5. Then you've got Leclerc, Tsunoda, Alonso, Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, Lance Stroll then in the Aston Martin, Perez, Sainz, Vettel, Ocon and Ricciardo are the top 15. Eliminated would be Giovinazzi, Russell, Raikkonen, Schumacher and Mazepin as it stands, which is not in itself the most astonishing of groups of drivers to be eliminated, but the complexion of the top 15 outside of that is very curious indeed. I feel like Latifi's had a few flashes this season as well, hasn't he? Where was his other flash earlier this year?
Imola. He got into Q2 and did a good Saturday before having a crash on Sunday. But he has shown better from time to time. This weekend he hasn't looked very good. He's been mixing it with the Hasses, and that's why he was straight out doing a lap with them at the start of the session. But that second lap he's done is good. And I think it's a warning sign for everyone else when Latifi's popping up in the top 10 with less than 5 minutes to go, and he's got another set of tyres to go as well. What's Russell going to do? What can the Alfa Romeos do? That Ricciardo time in 15th is going to be nowhere near enough. But what about even Stroll in 10th? Alonso in 8th? It's going to be right up to that Hamilton time, probably. Everyone after Hamilton is going to be in danger.
Raikkonen has dunked it in the gravel on the exit of turn 4 at fairly slow speed, you have to say. And so he didn't spin or anything like that, Kimi Raikkonen. He's rejoined the track, put a bit of gravel on the outside of the right-hander of turn 4. Everybody back in the pits with 4 minutes to go. Now, you only need to leave the pits with, well, in theory, about a minute and a half to go for a pretty pushy outlap, so probably 2 minutes to go if you want to be super comfortable and finding gaps in the traffic and all of that kind of stuff. So Bottas and Hamilton are the two drivers out on track at the moment. Hamilton on that last, has he just come across the line to improve? I think he has, to a 1 minute 4.6.
Yeah, he's just improved, but stays 4th. Not a big improvement at all.
No, pretty much the same lap time, I think.
So Gasly had a lap time deleted, which would have put him ahead of Charles Leclerc in 5th, and that little bit more secure. But he's had it deleted, which has cost him 2 tenths. He's down in 6th still. Not bad, but could have been breathing a little bit easier. 3.5 minutes left on the clock. It's going to be good this end of Q1. It's going to be high stakes. Get your outlap at the right time, because you don't want to be going too early. Latifi leaves right now. He's the first driver to go, followed by everyone else. If you go too early, you're starting your flying lap as people are still exiting the pits, and you've got a load of drivers on outlaps that you can trip over. But if you go too late, we all know now, you can get really held up, bunched at the final corner, tyres are cooling, don't get clear air, and around such a short lap, track position is really important to get this clean final lap.
Sergio Perez getting lowered down off the jacks and going out on another set of brand new soft tyres, and I wonder if that's going to compromise him later on, because the top teams usually would try and get through with one.
I don't know if Perez has got pace to be mixing it with the top teams, though. I think this weekend, the way it's going, Perez hasn't shown any pace this weekend really whatsoever. Bottas has got a 3-place grid drop. We're heading more and more towards a Verstappen-Hamilton, as usual, showdown. But then this is a great chance for the Norrises, for the Leclercs, maybe a Gasly, to get themselves starting in the top 3 as well, because Perez is looking uncomfortable.
Lost 2 tenths with Verstappen being in the way. I mean, he wasn't really in the way, but maybe enough to get a bit of dirty air at turn 4.
Yeah, not really buying it, not massively in the way, a little bit, maybe a second and a half, a couple of seconds ahead of Bottas into 4, got out the way on the exit. Bottas is safely through already, and he stays in the pits, so that's not going to be an issue.
Right, Verstappen, Bottas, Norris and Hamilton all in the pits, waiting to progress basically to Q2. So Hamilton, despite Pete Bonington saying they're going to go out again, I think they've decided that 3/10 buffer to Charles Leclerc is going to be enough. Everybody else on their outlap, pretty much everybody else in the final sector, really queuing up. It's quite hot, the track temperature today, 52 degrees, so not horrific for tyre warmer, but still not ideal to be going, what, 40 miles an hour down to the penultimate corner.
Yeah, horrendous bunching down to turn 9. Latifi started his flying lap. He was the first driver to lead the pits. he may yet trip over people at the end of his lap because everyone is cruising into the final sector.
We get a little track map and it's basically stationary with, I guess it's Ricciardo at the back of that queue in the McLaren. Absolutely stationary on the run towards turn 9. It's quite remarkable.
Everyone wants to leave themselves a good 5, 6, 7 seconds to not have dirty air.
I think Latifi's going to collect him. You're absolutely right. He's coming up towards turn 9 now. He's going to go past an Aston Martin, but Ricciardo and I think Perez in the Red Bull and one of the Haas cars maybe is pretty much, one of the AlphaTauris pretty much on the racing line. Latifi is not improving in the end. He hasn't improved his final sector after a personal best in the middle sector, and that's a real shame for Latifi because he was looking quick, and that's what you get for going out first.
Yeah, that's the problem, but if you go last, Ricciardo is going to start his lap now with 16 seconds to go. But you've had that just cruising around on the outlap, and it's very difficult. Russell jumps up to 7th. Good lap from George Russell.
Okay, so Russell into 7th place. Spits the AlphaTauris for the moment. Ricciardo is doing the quickest first sector of anyone. That's a bit more like it for the Australian. Ocon goes up into 11th place. Ocon has been out-qualified by Nicholas Latifi in the Williams at the moment, in this part of qualifying anyway. Giovinazzi goes up into 9th place. Ocon could be out of qualifying here. Check a flag out.
Raikkonen's gone, 17th. Vettel is improving. He's currently in the drop zone. Perez is in 15th and under big pressure. Schumacher stays in the pit, so he's done as well. We've got 3 more to go, and Ocon is looking in severe danger.
Alonso goes up into 8th place. That becomes 9th because Stroll jumps up into 6th position. But it's Perez, Vettel, Ricciardo that are basically battling to get through and push Ocon out of Q1. Ricciardo is coming through the final corner now. Turns through the right-hander of turn 10 and across the line. Perez goes 5th. That'll save him. Ricciardo only goes 14th. He should just scrape through. Vettel across the line in the Aston Martin goes 13th. And Ricciardo makes it through to the second part of qualifying, but by the skin of his teeth, 300ths quicker than Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, despite setting a rapid first sector, which he's done a number of times today, Daniel Ricciardo. So Latifi, Ocon, Raikkonen, Schumacher and Mazepin, the 5 drivers eliminated. But Ricciardo got away with that one big time, and Russell's done a great job.
I think Ricciardo can be thankful that Latifi tripped over a load of cars at the end of his lap.
Yeah.
Otherwise, any improvement from Latifi, and it's 2 Williams into Q2, and Ricciardo dumped out with Esteban Ocon. Really not great for Ocon, 17th, and he's had a pretty tough weekend. Behind Fernando Alonso, again, solidly since he signed his new contract with Alpine before the French Grand Prix. Alonso's been well on top of him there and was again 3 tenths to the good. Alonso through in 11th. And Ricciardo, 300ths clear of Latifi, scrapes through. No doubt those outlap preparations were not ideal, but when he does the fastest first sector of anyone,
That suggests you're up to 10th.
suggests the tyres are sort of okay. Is the rest of it that got away from Ricciardo and was a bit scrappy, but just about enough to see him through.
Just getting a replay of all. Mick Schumacher had a big moment of opposite lock coming out of turn 1. And the eliminated drivers are Nicholas Latifi, Esteban Ocon, Kimi Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren only just managed to make it through in 15th position, so he will go through to the next part of qualifying, but he's struggling. His teammate Lando Norris, the British driver in the other McLaren, absolutely flying. 3rd quickest in that, behind Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton didn't get a good lap in either, but now we move on to the second part of qualifying, which is all about not getting eliminated and making it through to the final part in the top 10.
17. Okay, box.
Tsunoda on his second lap went 4th quickest, quicker than Perez. Perez's second lap was much more sensible. And okay, it was a second lap compared to, but even if you compare his second lap to Tsunoda's and Leclerc's, it's more sensible than he was doing initially.
I mean, he's behind Tsunoda.
Agreed.
Still behind Tsunoda. A couple of tenths off Verstappen, but the track evolution was pretty high there. Hence, Latifi jumped up the order. Russell got through. Giovinazzi came through. It's better, but I don't think he's guaranteed to be in Q3. Perez should do with a clean lap again, but it is tight, that group. Only a couple of tenths, and he's still on the cusp of the top 10.
Jenny.
Just thinking about Daniel Ricciardo, he said ahead of this triple header he was really looking forward to it, to get some consistency around tracks that he knows, not street circuits, so it gives him a better feedback and a gauge. But this is kind of disastrous for Daniel Ricciardo. And yes, okay, it's only qualifying one and he might put together a much better lap, but he's struggled, it looks like, all weekend, and it's just not coming together for him at a circuit where you feel like it should be, and where Norris is currently in P3. And I really feel for him. I mean, the pressure that he's putting on his own shoulders by not being able to perform at these moments must be horrible.
And it's just curious because of that first sector. He had the fastest first sector of anyone.
It's just one corner. The first sector is just one corner at the circuit.
That is true.
He's hooked up the first corner, but there are only 7. So there's only 6 more to do. But the next 6 were not all that great. So he's under big pressure, no doubt. And he was good yesterday. He was very quick, Daniel Ricciardo, yesterday. But maybe with a little look at some data now in the break, he can try and find a bit. He's got some great data to look at with that Norris lap. 6/10 clear of even Ricciardo's second time. Lando stayed in the pits with the other big guns, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. That will help him in Q3. 2 sets of tyres where probably everyone else will have to do it on one. Tip for a podium. Yeah. I was going to say that before this session. I'm annoyed I didn't now, because now it's a bit obvious. It's in your face now, isn't it?
Hamilton for a podium.
Norris for a podium.
Bit obvious, really. Hamilton's first lap, not too bad. He's down in 6th position, but he felt like it was a bad lap, and it was only a couple of tenths away from Max Verstappen. Who else? Well, Russell was impressive, but only a tenth quicker than Nicholas Latifi, who, as we say, lost that time in the final sector. Jenny?
Jolyon, do you have tracks that you can specialise at as a driver? Because you look at Norris last year, qualified 3rd and 4th at the 2 Red Bull Ring races, got fastest lap in the first race, finished 3rd on the podium. Can you have like those tracks that just suit you?
Yeah, you certainly have tracks that you're better at than others. Of course, it changes year to year, and sometimes you can be more hooked up than others, and sometimes my tracks that I would arrive at thinking this was going to be a good one was a bit disappointing, and other
like
tracks...
where?
Well, Monaco in Formula 1. I used to love it in GB2, and then just had struggled there in F1.
Why? What? Was there anything you could? Was it suddenly you couldn't?
I think the Renault car wasn't particularly good. It was very unstable, and it just didn't give a lot of confidence. And yeah, I just couldn't find my rhythm at all in Monaco. Whereas from the word go in GB2, I absolutely loved it there. But then other tracks, Spa was actually my best qualifying in Formula 1. Never went well there before. It was a track that I loved to drive it, but I was never that competitive compared to Silverstone, Monza, some of the other classics, but ended up being my best qualifying in 2017. So you see Bottas normally goes well at this circuit, and Sochi, for example, is another Bottas sort of circuit, and Hamilton does well at Budapest, Canada. It does just, some drivers naturally love the flow of certain tracks. They get into their groove, they find the rhythm, maybe they find a little couple of tricks here and there that they can have up their sleeve. And Lando has always gone quite well at this one.
Bottas out very early on the medium tyre, and Giovinazzi has gone out as well on the medium tyre in the Alfa Romeo. So Bottas going out so early is interesting, presumably to give them 3 runs if they want them, or like a second run on the mediums and then onto the softs if necessary. I can't quite work out why they would be going out so early, and I'm not 100% sure why Giovinazzi would go out on the mediums also.
He can always switch to the softs, Giovinazzi, and it's a bit like France. They went out on the mediums, but actually, if you're an Alfa Romeo, you'd be chuffed to get into Q3.
Yeah.
So you can take the softs, and maybe it's not the ideal race start tyre, but you start in the top 10, which is already a bit of a coup for you in the weekend. So it's a sort of win-win, really. You either start outside of the top 10 with the good tyres, or you manage to use the better tyres, have an advantage on a Saturday, and maybe start on the not so good tyres, but from a good position. Bottas has got a nice clear track. That's one thing. The medium tyres, there's not a massive difference between the medium and the soft around here. Again, because it's a short lap, the more corners there are, the more differences there are in the the tyre compounds. So the Mercedes should have plenty of pace to get through on these mediums.
So Bottas, quickest in sectors 1 and 2, as you would expect. And now coming down into the final, well, but only quickest in this session actually. He's 2/10 down on what Ricciardo managed in sector 1 and a 10th down on what Sainz managed in sector 2 in the first part of qualifying. He did a 1 minute 14.5 in Q1, 2/10 slower on the medium tyres in this first part of Q2. And you tend to see a couple of tenths quicker in Q2 compared to Q1 if everybody's on the same tyre. So potential there for Bottas might be enough. Verstappen's gone out on the mediums as well, so has Hamilton, and that is when we will find out whether it is good enough.
Yeah, another set of tyres that they could throw at this as well. Perez is out on the soft tyre then, so that reflects his struggles so far this weekend. Red Bull can't get him through on the medium. They've had to throw a set of softs at Perez, and in the battle of the second drivers, Bottas maybe didn't cover himself in glory spinning in the pit lane and incurring a 3-place grid penalty, but he's got a bit more pace.
So time is not safe.
Bottas being told, nah, that time is not safe.
But not enough pace for the moment. He's going to have to improve. Nonetheless, could still be a threat for pole position in Q3, and will start on the medium tyres. Perez on the softs should have a good chance to get through to Q3, but with that less preferable starting tyre.
Am I being stupid? Why would Giovinazzi go out on the medium? I still can't quite. They don't think they can get through to Q3 on the mediums, or they just
use up a set of tyres and save then throw a soft at it and save a set of new softs for the race.
Yeah,
he's half a second away from George Russell, who on a soft tyre is 2/10 down on Bottas's time. Good lap from Russell, dips into the 1 minute 4s,
and that is fractionally quicker, about a tenth quicker than he managed in the first part of qualifying. Verstappen is slower than Hamilton through the first sector. He's done a reasonable middle sector, Max Verstappen, much quicker than Hamilton. Hamilton's had a problem. He's lost 7 tenths in the middle sector compared to Verstappen. He's half a second away, so and that's half a second away from Bottas's time. I think Verstappen might have done track limits at 10, comes across the line to go quickest, a 1 minute 4.540. Hamilton does a 1 minute 5.386, 8 tenths down on Verstappen's time, but I'm sure there must have been a mistake in the middle sector there for Hamilton.
It's getting a bit interesting at the moment. We're going to get a replay of Hamilton's mistake up at turn 3. Big lock-up, massive lock-up for Hamilton right front, and went in deep, and that's where he lost a heap of time then. That's why he's 4th and behind George Russell.
Now, do you do another run on those tyres, or do you, because you don't want to start the race on those tyres with a lock-up, do you?
They've got another set of mediums they can go for, so no big drama yet for Hamilton. Bottas has pitted in the Mercedes, so still just one flying lap for him. Verstappen, I'm pretty sure he went over track limits on his time, so they're all going to be fairly unsafe if Verstappen's time is chalked off, still counting at the moment. And Perez jumps into second place, but on his soft tyres, within half a tenth of Max Verstappen.
10 minutes to go in the second part of qualifying. The rest of the midfield have just left the pits, so Verstappen, Perez, Bottas, Russell, Hamilton, Giovinazzi are the 6 drivers who have set the lap time. Everybody else is about to start their flying laps. Sebastian Vettel, coming through the final corner now, was 14th quickest in the first part of qualifying. We'll see what he's got this time as he comes out and across the line. He did and he's starting his flying lap now up towards turn 1. All of the midfield runners are out on the soft tyres, as you would anticipate. Hamilton is going to be coming into the pits this time around, isn't he? So Vettel now up the hill towards turn 3.
The fact that everyone else is out on the soft is going to really complicate matters for the Mercedes and Max Verstappen getting through on the medium. They're going to have to make sure they get clean laps in. Hamilton, in fact, is starting another lap on this set of tyres. So even though he probably has a slight flat spot, he can clearly get a better time on the board, and he's got time on the clock to do that. 9 minutes left, just under, and so Hamilton can get this time in and come into the pits, get a new set of tyres on. But it's going to be a bit tight with everyone on the soft, and the natural field spread around this circuit is very, very small.
Vettel is less than a tenth away from Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. Vettel is, and don't forget Perez is on the softs here, and Vettel is going to be pretty close to Sergio Perez's time. Across the line comes Sebastian Vettel, actually lost quite a chunk in the final sector, a couple of tenths of a second, but it's 4th quickest for Sebastian Vettel. Hamilton is a couple of tenths down after the middle sector on his next run. Verstappen is improving on his second run on the medium tyres, comes across the line and does a 1 minute 4.433. Again, I'm curious that on the tyres that you, in theory, might start the race on, you'd put extra mileage on them, but Hamilton goes third, 2 tenths away from Verstappen.
Well, they can go quicker on another set of medium tyres, so they've got to make themselves safe at this point.
Yeah.
And leave themselves sort of out of risk when everyone else improves. Lance Stroll's just shown the risk because he's split the Mercedes now. He's ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who's already left the garage on another set of medium tyres. Gasly goes to the top of the times in an AlphaTauri. That's why they've just got to go as quick as they can rather than think about nursing the tyres, do a lap less, try and save them for tomorrow, because they've probably got to go and improve anyway on a second set at this rate.
Tsunoda goes 5th quickest in the AlphaTauri. Lando Norris is about to come across the line in the McLaren and go 3rd quickest, faster than Perez but slower than Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly, the Frenchman in the AlphaTauri, to the top of the times, 4 thousandths quicker than Max Verstappen. Norris 3rd, Perez 4th, Hamilton 5th. All of a sudden, Valtteri Bottas is down in 9th place.
And he's only 1/10 slower than Hamilton, who's 5th.
Yeah.
That's how tight it is. Charles Leclerc didn't get a lap in. He's down in 11th. He got a lap in, but it's not very quick. 200ths down on Carlos Sainz. The 2 Ferraris, 10th and 11th, and right in the danger zone. Ricciardo completed a lap, but his tricky weekend is continuing so far. On that first run, down in 14th and only ahead of the medium-tyred Giovinazzi. He's behind George Russell. Ricciardo's having a miserable day.
So, first run's done. Gasly quickest, Verstappen 2nd, Norris 3rd, Perez 4th, Hamilton 5th. Tsunoda, Stroll, Alonso, Bottas and Sainz are the top 10. Then it's Leclerc, Vettel, Russell, Ricciardo and Giovinazzi.
A lot of time for Hamilton to find. He's just been on the radio to Pete Bonington, his race engineer. Turn 3 was obviously where he gave away most of the time on the run that he was doing. Also turns 6 and 10, so he needs to find time. He's been told where to do it. Now he's just got to go out there and do it.
Valtteri Bottas is finding time, but he's 2 tenths down on Pierre Gasly after the first 2 sectors, so this might get him up to 6th or 7th, but that's about it for Bottas. Here he comes now, down towards the final corner at turn 10, out across the line, right up to the edge of the circuit. He goes up to 3rd, actually, so it's a very good final sector for Valtteri Bottas. Well, compared to Pierre Gasly anyway, and that's up to 3rd place for Bottas, so that should put him safe through on the medium tyres.
It's going to be tight still, though. He's matched. He's 100th down on Verstappen, but Verstappen has still got a set of medium tyres in hand. Bottas has gone early on a second set, and that's why he's jumped up to 3rd. But everyone else can improve. It should be good enough, but it's going to be a bit tight, and they'll probably send Bottas out now on a set of softs as a banker to make sure that if everyone is improving suddenly, that Valtteri can as well and ensure he gets through into Q3.
But Hamilton will go out on a medium?
Hamilton will go on a medium and cement that starting tyre, I think. And Bottas likely won't improve on a soft because he probably has done enough. But Leclerc's within 4 tenths of Gasly's pace on one lap, and he's currently going out. So that's how close all the field is. Russell's in 13th. He's half a second down on Gasly. Top spot.
Leclerc 11th, Vettel 12th, Russell 13th, Ricciardo 14th, Giovinazzi 15th. Giovinazzi went out on those medium tyres. Ricciardo, as you say, having a tough time, and out on the medium tyre does go Lewis Hamilton with 4 minutes left on the clock, and he's first out on track, so wanting to take advantage of a clear track, not get any red flags or yellow flags to disrupt his run.
Down to 6th place, Hamilton, at the moment. So whilst Bottas is probably safe, Hamilton is definitely not safe. That's why he's gone early, to try and make sure he gets clear air and he can put a lap on the board. And remember, he'd love to improve on that time he did as well, because he had a bit of a lock-up, 2 flying laps on that tyre, and this is the one he's going to start on.
We'll need to not get Latifi.
I don't know what Giovinazzi is doing.
Exactly. Any mistake now from Hamilton, a lap deleted, bit of traffic, and he's going to be under big pressure at the end of this session. He's got the track to himself, though, for now.
3.5 minutes to go. The top 10.
When's everyone going to just pour out of the pits? It's about to happen, isn't it?
It certainly is. And obviously there'll be less cars on track than in Q1, so the backing up through turns, well, up towards 6 and 7, so through 9 and 10 will be a lot less dramatic, you would have thought. But we'll see what happens. Hamilton now coming through the final couple of corners. Toto Wolff watching in the back of the garage, as he always is. And Hamilton now puts it into full power, and here he goes.
2 Ferraris just leave the garage. So does Giovinazzi, so does Tsunoda. They are all pouring out. It's going to be right in front of Hamilton, who winds it up for a flying lap. I think there's only the 4 cars, and they will be in at least the first half of the lap, which is easier to see and get out of the way of the drivers on a fast lap behind. Let's see what Hamilton's first sector is.
It's only 1 corner.
And it's no PB. Half a tenth off Pierre Gasly. Was he going in a bit hot to turn 3, though?
It looked very, very tasty. He's improving now, though, through turn 3, and now down towards turn 4. Again, all by himself. Everybody else is on their outlap, but in the very early stages. In fact, he's ahead of all of the people who have just left the pit, so they've gone out early enough, Mercedes and Hamilton. Now he's coming through the left-hander of turn 6. Now into turn 7. He's 3 tenths down here on Gasly. He's improving, because Gasly was slow in the final sector. I think that is what makes the middle sector splits look a little bit weird, because Hamilton is set to improve, but not necessarily by a huge amount. Here he comes now out of the final corner, and he goes 5th quickest, a 1:04.512, 800ths away from Pierre Gasly. He'll have time to do a slowdown and another run, but it's not fantastic, that, from Hamilton.
No, it's not an absolute sigh of relief yet for Mercedes. He's elevated himself ahead of Sergio Perez. That's just another car that's going to have to improve to knock him out. But the way the track evolution was, everyone else going out on an outlap now on soft tyres, he might yet have to find a little bit more. He's in a similar sort of realm as Bottas. Probably safe, but you never know. But he's got enough time to do another slow lap. That's why he went out early. The medium tyres are clearly hanging on for 2 flying laps.
Jenny.
Yeah, just listening to Pierre Gasly, who set the fastest lap. He still thinks there's maybe a 10th within his driving that he can do to get a better lap time. Norris clipped the curb as well. That's why he couldn't do any better than 4th.
Well, he isn't going out, Pierre Gasly. He's in the pit lane, so wherever that 10th is, he'll be looking to get it in the third part of qualifying. The AlphaTauri team obviously confident he can hold on and go through. Tsunoda's done a personal best in the first sector. So has Carlos Sainz. Everybody now is going to be improving. Charles Leclerc isn't, though.
2 Ferraris are the 2 to watch out for here. Sainz is improving. Leclerc is having a scruffy lap at the moment, and he's currently in the drop zone in 11th. So Ferrari not looking good this weekend, and under a bit of pressure.
I think Leclerc got a bit on the sausage curb on the exit of turn 1. Tsunoda is just under 2 tenths away from Gasly after the middle sector. Leclerc now coming through the final couple of corners. He is starting to find improvement in that Ferrari. Out across the line, and Charles Leclerc goes up into 8th place, but that is very dodgy territory. Hamilton comes across the line now with 16 seconds to go to start another flying lap. Tsunoda doesn't improve, actually. Pretty much matches his previous time and goes 7th quickest. Here comes Carlos Sainz. He remains in 11th, so Sainz won't be going through. Giovinazzi improves up to 13th. Ricciardo still there in 15th position. Russell goes up into the top 10, but I don't think that'll last, because Alonso, Vettel and Ricciardo are all improving.
Alonso knocks him out. 6th for Alonso, so Russell is gone. But I tell you what, it's going to be a great job from Russell, whichever way. And I think Stroll has gone over track limits as we joined his onboard out of the final corner. He's up into 10th at the moment. He didn't improve his lap time on that one, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Vettel goes 13th, so Vettel doesn't improve on George Russell's time. Here comes Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren, and he goes 14th. George Russell has qualified 11th for the Styrian Grand Prix in the Williams, just 100th away from getting into the top 10 ahead of Lance Stroll. Perez goes to the top of the times on the softs. Hamilton makes it through, no trouble in the end. Norris goes 2nd in the end, but what a job from George Russell. He'll start 11th place, free choice of tyres, perfect.
8 thousandths away from Lance Stroll and an appearance in Q3 for George Russell, but it would be, I mean, kudos for making Q3, but starting 11th through the free choice of tyres is also a really, really good place to be. What a job from Russell. Ricciardo, 14th. Long way adrift of Lando Norris, who jumped up to 2nd in the end. Half a second adrift around a short lap is plenty. And Ricciardo, for some reason, has had a nightmarish day, having looked better yesterday. Perez safely through, top of the times. And Mercedes didn't have to do that second lap in the end. They were 5th and 6th, which looks absolutely fine. But Hamilton was a 10th and a half inside the drop zone. So it was closer on time, but not enough drivers behind improved.
Vettel got his lap time deleted, so as a result he drops down to 14th position, promoting Ricciardo up into 13th. Ricciardo in the McLaren, out-qualified on pure pace by George Russell in the Williams. Really, really remarkable, especially when Norris is 0.6 of a second up the road.
But the Williams pace, a Russell remarkable job. Latifi's lap in Q1 is only a few tenths away from Ricciardo and Sainz in Q2, where normally a bit of track evolution you're finding a little bit more.
Yeah.
Latifi's Q1 time. If you had Latifi in Q2, he might be meddling it with them as well.
Okay, P11. It's not bad, free time choice.
You're kidding me.
Nice work.
That's annoying. How close?
104.66 to 104.67.
You're kidding me. That's annoying. Good job anyway.
Yep, great job from the Williams team. And Sainz returns, eliminated. Charles Leclerc only got up into 9th place, so the top 10 going through are Perez, Norris, Gasly, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Alonso, Tsunoda, Leclerc and Stroll. And then eliminated Russell, Sainz, Ricciardo, Vettel, Giovinazzi, 11th through 15th. 16th Latifi, Ocon, Raikkonen, Schumacher, Mazepin. Alonso's done a good job here, hasn't he, to get him into 7th place. Ocon eliminated in Q1. It's a good job from the Spaniard.
Yeah, looking better and better now. He's getting comfortable with the team again. And yeah, tough day for Ocon, tough day for Ricciardo, but good day in turn for Norris and Alonso.
Yeah. I had a lot of
George Russell is the standout performer from that qualifying session. He's 11th on the grid. He doesn't make it through to the top 10, but a very, very impressive performance from the Williams driver to start 11th on the grid tomorrow. Carlos Sainz is 12th, Daniel Ricciardo 13th, Sebastian Vettel 14th, Antonio Giovinazzi 15th, and now we will move on to the battle for pole position. So, Perez did a good lap on the softs. A 10th clear of Lando Norris, actually, and they were just over a 10th quicker than Pierre Gasly, who didn't do a second run.
Perez, with all these laps on the soft, has actually managed to dial himself down to a sensible pace.
Yeah.
Having looked a bit adrift all the way through practice and Q1, to the point where he couldn't even try on the mediums, and Verstappen just needed one set of them to get through. Perez, through using a couple of sets of soft tyres, has got down to a pace that should see him qualify in that top 3 or 4 position again and be a factor for Red Bull in the race tomorrow, although he'll have to start on the soft tyre, unlike Verstappen, Bottas and Hamilton, so there's a bit of a handicap there.
Jenny.
Yeah, just listening in on some of the team radios, and Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari was interesting. He came over the radio.
Beautiful.
Nice lap, mate.
That was good, man. So enjoyable. Whatever the position will be, I did enjoy.
Oh, Alonso had a nice time.
Good old Alonso saying he enjoyed it. Yeah, so Leclerc came on the team radio and said, why was Carlos so slow? And the engineer asked him to repeat himself, and he said, actually, let's talk about it when I get in. But what a thing to say. I mean, the difference between the two didn't seem that great. Yes, Carlos is out in P12,
I'm afraid
but
we're P14.
what a strange thing for Charles to say on a team radio.
Presumably they're talking about outlaps, not the outright pace.
That would make more sense.
Yeah, because I think they went out together quite early on. Leclerc presumably behind Sainz on the track, and not happy with the outlap, I imagine, of Carlos Sainz. Yeah, I don't think you can call him so slow in terms of outright pace when you're only a 10th and a half quicker.
We'll fight back from here.
Well, no, I don't know when those lap times come across, because when I look at the last lap, which I guess was the in-lap, Sainz did his in-lap in 2 minutes 7 seconds. Everybody else's in-lap was about a minute and a half, a minute 20. So maybe he's come across him being really slow on the in-lap potentially.
Possibly.
Who knows?
I don't think he's rubbing salt into the wounds of a Q2 exit though of Carlos Sainz in terms of his outright speed.
That result for Russell matches his best ever qualifying performance for Williams, which he first qualified or started 11th on the grid in the Styrian Grand Prix of 2020, and then managed it again earlier this year in Portugal.
Chance of rain tomorrow. I don't know if he'll want that or not. at this stage. He's shown some decent pace in the wet. Turkey last year, he was having a solid drive. Imola this year, he could and probably should have had some points before having a tangle with Bottas. Starting 11th with a threat of rain could be good, but starting 11th without could be good because he's got that free choice of tyres and has some strategy to play with. And remember, he had a really strong race pace in France last time out, finishing 12th. We're going to have a Norris podium and a Russell point.
Just out of interest, Russell, when you say he qualified 11th last time out, he did finish 16th. So went a little bit backwards. So let's hope that's not the way it's going to roll. Just spoken to Pirelli about strategy for tomorrow. So they were expecting everybody to try and go through on the soft tyre. Obviously, we've got those 3 going through on a medium. So they reckon medium to soft is just as good an option. It just gives you something a little bit different. And maybe if you can go extremely long, safety car, that sort of thing comes into play on the mediums.
Yeah, you said that yesterday in practice, I think, didn't you? That Pirelli think that everyone will start on the softs. Even then, you're just like, yeah, okay. Wait till tomorrow, and the front runners will start on the mediums, because they always do. So there we go. Okay, they didn't.
I suppose the point of interest in that is that Perez didn't get through on the mediums, so
indeed
they have a different strategy on that way. But Perez is normally they send Perez long. He's not going to go longer on the. Maybe he can go longer on a soft than they can on the medium.
Well, I think today is not necessarily a case of they wanted to split the strategies. I think it's a case of they had to split the strategies, seeing how close the Mercedes were and Verstappen even to the drop zone. If Perez is a couple of tenths away from Verstappen on pace, which he has certainly been through this weekend so far, he ain't making it through on a set of mediums, so he had to go for the soft.
Right, Hamilton straight out at the start of Q3 onto the track all by himself, and so maybe doing a couple of runs on this first run on the soft tyre, maybe a couple of laps to try and dial himself in.
Be surprised having an extra lap of fuel. It does look like a 1 lap tyre, the soft. The medium was giving up a little bit more on the second lap, but the soft tyre normally is good for the first. Has he gone on a used set of tyres? There's used tyres on Bottas's car at the moment.
I'll find out. 11 minutes to go. Hamilton straight out onto the track. Wasn't happy with either of his runs, was he? In that first part of in either of the first 2 parts of qualifying.
He's going to start a flying lap, but he's still got the track all to himself, which is unusual for a pole position challenger to be going this early. See what sort of pace he's got. Charges into turn 1, medium speed right-hander, gets right out over the curb on the exit, over the sausage curb, but actually the Mercedes seemed to ride it pretty well, and he still had traction up towards turn 3.
It's a new set of softs for Hamilton,
and he's done a good first sector. It's a solid first sector rather than anything spectacular.
It's over a tenth slower than Norris has managed in sector 1.
Yeah, that was the soft tyre for Norris at the end of Q2. But sector 1 is 1 corner. We'll see what he can do through sector 2 now. Turns 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 even. They get quicker as you go through them.
It's solid. I mean, he's on target for a sort of low 1 minute 4. The quickest lap time we've seen was in Q2 from Perez, a 1 minute 4.197. You add up the fastest sectors from Norris, Perez and Verstappen, you get a 1 minute 4.000. Hamilton across the line does a 1 minute 4.205. It's fine. It's not getting you pole position, I don't think.
No, it's barely a tenth quicker than Norris did in Q2 then. Overall 3 sectors. So went early, got a nice clear lap in, but it's not that quick. And as you say, Perez was quicker at the end of Q2 on his soft tyres, so I think Red Bull will see that. They're leaving the garage now. Verstappen takes the blankets off and emerges from the garage. I think they'll see that and think we're in with a great chance here.
So Hamilton, the first driver to set a lap time, a 1 minute 4.205. Now Gasly is leaving the pit lane, Alonso, Tsunoda, Leclerc. We've got 9 minutes left of this battle for pole position, and Lewis Hamilton has gone out very early on, set a lap time of a 1 minute 4.205, and he's the only driver to have set a lap time so far. Everybody else has now poured out of the pit lane. Hamilton trails Max Verstappen in the championship by 12 points coming into this weekend, and so he'll want to secure pole position and try and take a win after Verstappen has taken the last one in France a couple of weeks, well, just 1 week ago now, and then there's another race here in Austria in 1 week's time. But Jolyon Palmer, not a particularly quick lap from Lewis Hamilton, and he's back in the pits.
Yeah, straight out. Had the track to himself early on in Q3. It's rare that any of the front runners go so early, but Lewis clearly wanting a cleared track. But he's not done even the fastest lap we've seen in qualifying so far. He's fastest of this final segment and on provisional pole, but he's the only one to have done a lap, which is slower than what Sergio Perez did in Q2. So he's got plenty to find. He's got another set of tyres to come, and the real pole position challenge for him later on in this part of qualifying. But he's got work to do there, I'd say.
Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauris are out on circuit now. Tsunoda's done a reasonable first sector, but where's Max Verstappen? He's just coming across the line now, starting his first attempt at taking pole position for the Styrian Grand Prix, up towards the 90-degree right-hander of turn 1 that then takes him further up the hill towards turn 3. And Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri has gone quicker than Lewis Hamilton in the first sector, and Max Verstappen is about to do similar. He's quicker than Hamilton by over 1/10 of a second in sector 1.
Much quicker through the first sector, very short first sector for Verstappen. He's found good time, and Gasly's flying through the middle part of the lap as well. The AlphaTauri cars look good. Gasly was really quick in the middle part of qualifying in Q2. He's going to be quicker through the final sector. Both he and Verstappen improving well.
Yuki Tsunoda in the other AlphaTauri has not done a good lap, 7/10 slower than Hamilton, but here comes Pierre Gasly, the Frenchman who won for the first time at the Italian Grand Prix last season, swings down through the final corner, might have gone all four wheels off the track. Verstappen is absolutely flying. Gasly across the line is slower than Hamilton by 1/4 of a second, but Verstappen is 4/10 up, 2/3 of the way through the lap.
Norris going very quickly behind as well, so he's one to keep an eye on. But this is the sound of Max Verstappen out of the final corner, driving to the line, and he goes provisional pole position, 3.5 clear of Lewis Hamilton.
A really big lap then from Max Verstappen. Hamilton's still in second place. Charles Leclerc comes across the line to go fourth quickest. Perez goes up into third in the other Red Bull. Valtteri Bottas is on a lap now. He's come through the first sector and it's okay. His middle sector's okay, but it's nowhere near matching the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Lando Norris has gone third quickest, ahead of Sergio Perez. Norris is only 0.04 of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton. Great lap from the McLaren driver. Bottas looking a bit wide through 9, now into 10, out across the line. He's got a 3-place grid penalty after dangerous driving in the pit lane yesterday, and he's only 4th fastest, so that would have him starting 7th on the grid for tomorrow's race if it finishes like this. Verstappen quickest, Hamilton second, Norris third, Bottas 4th, Perez 5th.
And Hamilton's going again right now. He's already on his pole position charge here. Here he goes.
Yeah, I think it was a good lap
through sector 1. He's improving all the way now. He's got plenty to find on Max Verstappen. He's found a 10th to himself, but he's still over a 10th down on Verstappen in the first sector. The car rotating nicely through turn 3 though. Late on the brakes, but still managed to turn the car, hit the apex and get a smooth exit. So it's looking better for Hamilton, but he's got more work to do to find Verstappen, who's got a nice margin out front.
Comes through the right-hander of turn 4. Verstappen is back in the pits to put on a new set of tyres. Lando Norris is returning to the pits. Everybody else is. I wonder if Hamilton's got 3 new sets of tyres and is doing 3 runs in this final part of qualifying. He's 1/4 of a second down on Verstappen after the first 2 sectors.
He saved the set in Q1, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he maybe has that option available to him.
Because he didn't then go out at the end of Q2, did he?
No, he saved the set. He didn't run any softs in Q2.
Hamilton across the line, fastest final sector of anyone, still 0.2 of a second adrift from Max Verstappen, who's on provisional pole position. So, Hamilton, Verstappen will all have to go again. 4 minutes left. Verstappen quickest, Hamilton second, Lando Norris third, Valtteri Bottas 4th, Sergio Perez 5th, Pierre Gasly 6th, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari 7th, Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri 8th, 9th is Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. Lance Stroll is just setting a time now. In 10th place in the Aston Martin. So Verstappen looking very strong, and this is kind of how it's felt all weekend. Mercedes have had some good laps that make them look quick, but it's just felt like Red Bull have the advantage.
And they're really cementing that now. One more lap for Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas Can Norris do anything magic? He's done a great job so far to be third, and Sergio Perez only fifth. Potentially on a used set of tyres though for Perez. He's used a lot of tyres to get to this point, and he was a long way off actually what he did in Q2. So Perez maybe with more to find from fifth. Stroll crosses the line in the only remaining Aston Martin. He's out-qualified Sebastian Vettel today. He comes across the line and goes 8th ahead of Yuki Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso, but that may be slipping down as those two go for new tyres at the end.
I think it was a new tyre for Sergio Perez, by the looks of things. So it was a new set for him. Hamilton back into the pits to move on to his final run in qualifying. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, just looking at the contrasting fortunes of the two McLaren drivers. At the moment, Lando Norris is in P3, and as you alluded to, could bring out something really special if he can just get everything hooked up together. But we saw Daniel Ricciardo, the other driver for McLaren, go out in the last part of qualifying in P13, and I think the McLaren team really sensed that they could be on for a great result here. And they know that Valtteri Bottas has got a three-place grid penalty for spinning in the pit lane yesterday, and they feel if they can start ahead of Bottas, they could potentially stay ahead of Bottas in the race.
They're probably going to be starting ahead of Bottas, because with Norris up in third, even if they don't qualify ahead of Bottas right now with his three-place grid drop, he's going to be behind Lando unless a load of cars improve and get between them. Or Bottas can magic a pole position or a fastest in qualifying out of the hat.
Valtteri Bottas on the radio getting annoyed at Yuki Tsunoda, and fair enough, he was on the racing line, Tsunoda, coming down into turn 4, and it would have just been a bit of a distraction, I think, for Valtteri Bottas. That 2 minutes to go. Everybody now making their way onto the circuit for their one last go at qualifying as high up the grid as they can for tomorrow's Styrian Grand Prix in the foothills of the Styrian Mountains. This circuit at Spielberg, a double header this weekend and next weekend, plastered up the side of a mountain. It's a spectacular location, beautiful sunny day. Who is going to secure pole position?
Who can beat Max Verstappen? Hamilton out on circuit again, so it is 3 sets of tyres. That's why he went so early. But 2 sets of tyres have only got him into second place at the moment. Still got to find a bit more, and then hope that Verstappen can't find more pace himself. Verstappen is at the back of the train of cars that's all on their outlaps right now, leaving a big space exit of turn 4, and there's a bit of a melee ahead of him as everyone's jostling for some track position.
Yeah, there's Fernando Alonso trying to stay in. Suddenly, I think it's Hamilton at the back is getting a bit panicky. Goes around the outside of Norris and Perez, and Hamilton is almost racing here as they come down towards the final couple of corners. Goes to the inside, dives ahead of Valtteri Bottas as well, and just kind of skips the line a little bit and goes up to the front. So that's a bit of a desperate move from Hamilton.
It's a strange move, a really odd move from Hamilton, much quicker outlap than anyone else. Then he slows down and starts his own flying lap, but rather than wait his turn, he's jumped straight to the front of the queue. Pretty rare move to see. And is that distracting? He's also driven right off the racing line on the run down to the final few corners. It's a strange thing to see that from Hamilton, so panicky to try and get to the front of that pack, and he's done a pretty ordinary first sector with it as well.
Yeah, it's very bad, the first sector from Lewis Hamilton. It's not going to be an improvement on this lap, almost certainly right from the start. His teammate Valtteri Bottas, who he slotted it in front of in his desperation to get to the front, has gone better than he's managed previously in the first sector. Verstappen is starting his lap now, coming up towards turn 3, and it's not a particularly strong first sector from Verstappen either. Bottas has improved in sector 1, Lando Norris hasn't really either, but he's now getting a little bit better in the middle sector.
Tell you what, watch Norris here, he's flying through the middle sector. He's not a million miles away from Hamilton on pace anyway, and Lewis isn't improving through the first 2 sectors, and he's gone wide into turn 9.
Hamilton off the road, he won't have pole position for the Grand Prix tomorrow. It's Max Verstappen on provisional pole. Hamilton comes across the line, Bottas goes very wide out of the final corner, comes through to qualify second. Pierre Gasly goes 4th in the AlphaTauri, but Lando Norris is flying. The orange McLaren turns through the final corner, accelerates towards the line, and Norris goes 4th. Doesn't quite manage to pip Lewis Hamilton for the top 3 places, but Norris does out-qualify Sergio Perez. All of that means that Max Verstappen starts on pole position for the Styrian Grand Prix tomorrow afternoon. Bottas is second, but he has a 3-place grid drop, which means that he will drop down to starting 5th on the grid, promoting Hamilton to second. It'll be another Verstappen versus Hamilton front row.
Looking forward to it. Hamilton just was all out of sorts going for that final lap, passed half the top 10 on the way round on his outlap, then made a pretty poor fist at the final lap there, and Verstappen didn't improve, didn't need to take pole.
Oh, yes. Nice job, nice job. Oh, yes. Nice job, nice job.
Well done, mate. Both laps were good enough for the pole. Well done.
We call that simply lovely.
Simply lovely the car is, says Max Verstappen, so he will start on pole position for the Grand Prix tomorrow. Hamilton will start second, Norris will start third, Perez will start fourth, fifth will be Valtteri Bottas, sixth Pierre Gasly, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Alonso and Stroll, the rest of the top 10. We will have full reaction in the Checker Flag podcast, which you can download a little bit later on this afternoon, Ellie.
Great job from Bottas.
Yeah.
Really strong lap from Bottas. Right at the death. Looked like he would be starting down in 7th, possibly 8th with anyone else improving as well. Norris and Gasly doing well. But up into 2nd place, actually out-qualifying Lewis Hamilton today. Really important, because even with his 3-place grid drop, he starts 5th. And he's in the race at the front end, which is the main thing he had to do, taking that grid drop into this weekend's race. So good job from him. But Verstappen was just untouchable.
We're in for another interesting Grand Prix tomorrow, aren't we? Spoke to Mercedes a couple of days ago. They said, yeah, Red Bull faster on Saturday, we're faster on Sunday. Seems to be the pattern over the course of the season so far. And once again, Hamilton will have to get ahead of Verstappen if he wants to win the Grand Prix. Can't wait. That's it. That's the only comment you've got. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay. What was going on with that Hamilton outlap? I'm very curious to learn about that. Maybe we'll hear from that in a moment. He's going to be speaking to Johnny Herbert, so this will be fun.
Did he want to slipstream Bottas round? Was he trying to help Bottas out? Because he passed every car, got in front of Bottas, and then waited for a space. Or was it just a...
But if they wanted to slipstream him round,
send him out early.
They would just send him out in front of Bottas.
It was a really odd thing that Hamilton just wasn't comfortable in the track position he was in. Passed loads of cars and then just had a really poor lap. But it's understandable he had a poor lap because he was off the racing line all the way on his outlap, out of his rhythm, did a way faster outlap than he would have probably wanted. Bit of a bizarre move.
Yeah. So Verstappen takes pole position. Hamilton will be second on the grid, but Valtteri Bottas was second quickest. He's looking around the car quite a lot, Lewis Hamilton. We're getting a look now at him coming through the final couple of corners. Okay, no, this isn't the outlap then. I thought this was just his mistake coming into turn 9, but he was a quarter of a second down by the second corner. Apologises on the radio, but it's the outlap that was the curiosity.
Well, the good thing for him is he still starts second. Norris was only half a tenth away from Hamilton